Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Integrating Investor. I am Seth Levine, as you know, of the Integrating Investor website. Thanks for coming us again, joining me again, I should say, and following along on our journey. We are going to continue to flesh out the different views of money and central banking that I hold that I think will help kind of lead to some better financial concepts. We've been doing this. This is going to be part 3 today. We are going to be chugging right along. I hope you liked last week's episode. Last week, for those of you who don't remember, last week we took a break to interview Daniel Want. That was an awesome interview. It was long, it was lengthy, but I hope you see why I just gel with or Daniel's framework resonates so much with me. I mean, he takes ideas seriously, right? I mean, this is kind of what led me here, taking ideas seriously. He really likes to obey kind of that law of non-contradiction, right? That's very philosophical, right? The law of non-contradiction, and how he likes to search for anomalies. Whatever. Anyway, just kind of like weird kind of glitches in the data to really further his understanding. So that was awesome. So please, if you saw that, if you haven't checked it out, highly recommend checking that out. If you liked it, please, like the episode, share it, send it around. Hey, I can share this episode right now, right? Just take a few seconds right now, hit that like button, would really helps a lot. And then, get to the end of it. You don't like it, just unlike it, thumbs down on it, like whatever you need to do. As always, follow me on Twitter, check out the website, sign up for, monthly emails. So you'll get my articles sent directly to your inbox. And as always, please use that super chat function. That is a huge help to the Ayn Rand Center folks who put this all on. And if you ever have any show ideas or interview guests, any other suggestions, feel free to reach out to me at info@integratinginvestor.com. That's integratinginvestor.com. There, got a little sloppy here. I take a week off and I forget everything, right? So we're going to keep moving along here. And if you are a philosopher or you have an expertise in epistemology, or you're just like an economic buff and you really have a good grasp of, monetary history, and you kind of, what we're doing here kind of resonates with you, please feel free to reach out to me. There could be some cool projects to collaborate on. And I apologize, maybe I'm seem a little bit flustered today. That's for 2 reasons, probably 1 or 3 reasons. One, that week off, maybe I'm just a little rusty, but 2, you may be able to hear it. I'm kind of battling a cold here. Kind of sucks, nothing major, but just really frustrating. And last but not least, I have unfortunately decided to take on another cook today. So I got some ribs on the old charcoal grill outside. They are smoking, should be about 4.5 hours, 5 hours or so. They seem to be coming along well. Shouldn't have any issues there, I think, if I did this right. So that is great. Moving right along here, as I always do for some reason, we will start with the good old disclaimer, right? Again, these are just my personal opinions, not investment advice, not views of my employer. There may be conflicts of interest. I don't know how. You guys just do your own work before you invest, and nothing, just, simple as that, right? We all know the drill. So sorry if I am speeding along here. I think this is going to be a little bit of a long episode. I really want to get into my view of money, right? I've been kind of teasing us along the whole time, really setting the context. We were talking about money, right? What is money? We looked at different views of money throughout history, and now we're kind of coming to the payoff, right? We're gonna get to, at the end, my preferred definition of money, and I'm gonna show you how it really supercharges our understanding of the world, or at least it supercharged my understanding of the world. That is, if I'm seeing things correctly. So we left off talking about money. We saw how a lot of serious thinkers over the years have just had very different definitions of money, right? And they're like not even like a little bit different, like they're vastly different, right? We had some who said money is a medium of exchange. Then we had some who said it's a savings vehicle. Some said it was both, right? We have thinkers who think that money can only be a commodity. And then we have others who say that no, money is really just something that the government prints and gives to you, right? So these are just so vastly different. And these different definitions of money are really the roots of what lead people to have different views on a lot of other concepts that really, predicate on money, right? It's not just money, but they also come to different views of economics. They come to different views of policy, right? And not just monetary policy, but also fiscal policy, right? The role that money plays and our definitions of money all impact that too. And of course, why I'm interested in it is because your view of money impacts investing. Now, it's important to have good concepts, right? And we could see the utility value of having good concepts. And this is because for those who are familiar with Ayn Rand's epistemology, we build concepts from concepts, right? There's a pyramid, we pyramid upon concepts, right? So if you get something wrong at the bottom of your pyramid base, you're going to screw things up higher up in the conceptual chain. Now, we have, lots of good concepts in the world, right? Like we could look at a couple and try and concretize these abstract talk, right? Take like water, for example, right? Water, right here, like not a lot of disagreement in terms of water, right? Even if it's in ice, if it's in its solid form as ice, it's liquid water or it's vapor, like we all kind of know what water is. What about, furniture, right? That's the classical example here in the objectivist kind of lore, right? Furniture, right? It's generally a pretty well understood concept, right? Not a lot of disagreement with furniture. Now, of course, there are fringe issues like what's a snack table, right? Is a snack table furniture, right? But it's a fringe issue, and honestly, there's always fringe issues in anything. So those are some pretty good definitions, and we don't really screw things up related to water and furniture, but there are some definitions in society today that are a little bit sloppy, not just money, and they kind of lead to problems, right? Take capitalism, for example, right? My view of capitalism is laissez-faire capitalism, right? It is redundant in that sense. Laissez-faire is redundant capitalism, right? It is totally a market economy. However, there are many people who think, the US today or the West in general is capitalism. And this leads them to conflate issues like cronyism with capitalism, right? And they even say crony capitalism in a sense. But to me, I see cronyism as more part of statism than capitalism. And again, any questions, we could dive down that, hit up the chat and we could get into that more. But also kind of have that mixed economy view of capitalism. Then you get like pro-business. Right? Oh, capitalism is pro-business, right? Anything that's good for business is capitalism, right? So then you get to weird concepts, in my view, that you become pro-bailouts, right? So now, if you're capitalist, you're pro-bailouts. Another way that if you think that if the Western economies today are actual full capitalism is, you look at medicine, right? It leads you to a view that maybe socialized medicine is better because our free market healthcare system is failing. Right now, I disagree with those, but that's an example of how sloppy concepts can lead to things, or different definitions of concepts could lead to different conclusions on things or different views of the world. And take, the same thing with capitalism. We've been talking about banking, right? What about banking, right? Free banking versus like laissez-faire banking, right? Free banking in the historical sense, which we talked about, for example, the Scottish system, kind of that, or the antebellum US, right? That pre-1900 banking system. And it says free, but it's not really free. It's freer than what it was, but we could see that a lot of problems that happened in the free banking regimes were real. The free banking regimes were really because of the regulatory side, and they weren't laissez-faire capitalism. So if you thought that free banking was indeed laissez-faire capitalism, you're like, well, free banking sucked. Well, actually, free banking was really good, and it could have been better in my view. So our word choices and our definition structures matter a lot for our understanding of the world. All right, so getting back to money, right? This is here's money, right? Most definitions of money start here, right? I'll call them the famous four money, right? A medium of exchange, common standard measure of value, a unit of account, right? Standard of value, right? Or store value, right? Those are our big four. Now, as I mentioned, I think we can get somewhere better with all this, right? We looked at a bunch of definitions 2 episodes ago, right? In part 2 of the series, right? Just because the episode before this was Daniel Want. So the last time we were talking about money, we pulled up a bunch of definitions, and they were very different. However, there was a commonality, if you remember, right? There was a conceptual common denominator, right? It was implied in all those definitions, but it wasn't part of all the definitions, right? Money requires some common understanding of value, right? Even if it's a personal value, right? We're measuring something when we're talking about money, right? When we use money, you and I in this trade, like we're measuring something. And what are we measuring? Economic value, right? So it's implied, but not explicitly stated. But if we even go back to kind of that big four definition of money, let's think about it, right? Medium of exchange. What are we exchanging, right? Store value. What are we storing, right? As a unit of account, what are we accounting for, right? In other words, what are we measuring? And all these things, right? We're measuring something. So again, I think we can do a lot better. I think we could clean up kind of money, and I think it'll lead to like a lot more, a better kind of more consistent understanding of the world, and make us all kind of better investors along the way. So with that, just check the chat real quick. Looks pretty clean, so we will keep on going. So as you can tell, like I've done a lot of thinking about money, right? Like a lot, like definitely not the most, but certainly not the least, right? I also have this like really intimate experience with the great financial crisis, just given my professional experience, kind of how it all worked out and kind of where the seat I had and within the financial system. So I just see things a little bit differently. And I just see contradictions within that kind of big four definition of money. And as Daniel Want explained last week, that's a clue that we need to dig a little bit deeper here, right? We don't see this kind of confusion in other kind of well-formed concepts, right? There's no real confusion with water, or there's no real confusion with furniture, but we do see confusion with like capitalism, right? So we can see why having good definitions matter, and money is no different. So let me kind of show you what I mean here. We bring back up the big four, right? There's just a lot of views of money. So why don't we look at some like common money examples and see if we can identify what's money and what's not. And let's maybe see if we can find any contradiction or points of confusion, right? Sounds like a fun Friday for everyone. No? Oh man. It will be fun, I promise, right? So, pardon me one sec. So what's the first thing, right? First thing on our list of money is should be the most obvious one. Cash, right? It's cash money. Anyone? Cash money, dollar bills, pounds, right? Well, certainly medium of exchange, right? We certainly, what about gold, right? Is gold money? Credit cards, right? Who uses cash anymore? Is credit cards money? Some would say yes, some would say no. What about bank reserves created by the Federal Reserve, right? That high-powered money. It even says high-powered money in the name. Is that money? Time deposits, checking deposits, bank deposits, are these money? Right? Bonds, could they be money? I mean, they're using the shadow banking system in lending and money creation, no? What about repo? How about M1, M2, M3, right? These are the Fed's measures of money, right? M1 being kind of like physical currency, M2 being checking deposits and other kind of convertible near money, and M3 is really just like money market funds and repo, just a combination of them all. So there's that. And like, what about Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin money? What about other cryptocurrencies? Right. So this is a pretty big list of stuff. Some people would say yes, that they're money. Some people would say no. And, so it just kind of, so what is money, right? What is money? Like, why is it so hard to concretize money using our modern definitions? Right? These are not fringe issues, right? This is like a core, these are core money questions, right? What is money? We're not talking about like what is a snack table furniture? Like that's pretty fringe. Like this is no cash. Is cash of money? No, are what the central banks do? Are they money? So to me, like it's not very ITOE, right? It's not very introduction to objectivist epistemology, right? Rand's seminal, book on epistemology, right? And, kind of Rand's epistemology, the objectivist epistemology, the theory there is that you need to be able to trace concepts back to percepts, right? You have to be able to take a concept and connect the logical chain and bring it back to something in the world where you could say, that is part of that concept. And quite frankly, I can't get there with money today. I just can't do it, right? This common list of money that I just kind of went through, like it doesn't fit neatly into any of our definitions of money today. And honestly, like that's a problem. So what is a good definition of money, right? I've been railing long enough, right? Well, as always, John puts it best, right? Money is a veil. I just love how John puts things, right? Money is a veil, right? We don't want money per se, really. We want the things that money represents, right? Money is an abstraction for real world goods and services, right? I get paid in money per se by my employer. Like, I don't want that money. I want all the stuff in my life that I can exchange it for. So, in my view, John's right. Money is a veil, right? It's his definition, I think, is actually better than the big four common definitions. It's better because it's just more concise, right? I mean, those kind of big four common definitions, like they kind of lumber to get to what John is saying, in my view, but they don't do it, right? So when I think about John's definition, I think about money, I think about what is the right definition of money. To me, I settle on this. Money is a unit of account for economic value, right? It's no more, no less, right? Money is a unit of account for economic value, right? It's a measurement concept, right? It's how we measure economic value, right? And we need to measure economic value. This is fundamental to modern society, right? We need to measure value in order to trade, in order to have specialization, right? And it really is just the engine of our modern economies. So my view, like money is really just one of those big four lists, right? It's not all of them. And it's just super, like, it's just interesting, right? To just have this perspective. Money is just the standard unit of account, right? Because look what happens to our list of common money now, kind of money items now, right? We can reclassify everything else, right? So, the medium of exchange we could call currency, right? Anything that's a medium of exchange is currency, right? Something we use to trade. Store value, like let's just call that savings, right? Same thing, right? And a standard of value, like what is a standard of value? Let's just call it a monetary standard, right? So now that kind of like muddled list of like head scratchers, like is this money? Is that money? I don't know, right? It just becomes crystal clear, right? So let's just go through the list. Cash, right? What is cash? Well, pretty simple to me. It's a currency, right? It's a medium of exchange. Maybe it's a store value, but really only if you store it, you kind of like store it under your mattress or you bury a box of it in your backyard, right? I don't really store value in cash, like maybe a little bit, but not really, right? It's really just a medium of exchange. What about credit cards, right? Again, can't really store value in credit cards. You're not really accounting for value in credit card terms. Like it's just currency, right? We're just using it to go buy stuff. What about gold, right? Gold, store value, right? I don't really think it's currency. Like I don't see anyone kind of exchanging bricks of gold or gold coins at really at the store for anything else, right? So it's not really it's not really a currency anymore. And historically, actually, it was a monetary standard. It's not anymore, but historically, it was a monetary standard, and I would argue a pretty good one. What about bank reserves, right? Held by the Federal Reserve, like the high-powered money, right? Well, it's certainly a currency for commercial banks, right? They kind of trade that. That's the whole concept behind that. We don't really denominate anything in bank reserve terms, so it's not really monetary standard, but it can kind of be a store of value, right? I don't own bank reserves, right, for anything, but for regulatory reasons, banks, commercial banks own them, so maybe it kind of fits that bucket. What about kind of time deposits, checking deposits, right? Other bank deposits, right? Those can be kind of stores of value. Like checks are definitely medium of exchange, right? My savings account is a store of value, right? Savings, my checks are, kind of, they're currency. And, we'll just go, bonds, right? Bonds are stores of value. They're kind of an institutional currency, but like I can't buy milk with bonds, right? What about crypto, right? Crypto may be a store of value, like Bitcoin maybe is a store of value, like not really currency, right? Like we make fun of people for like using your crypto to buy like pizzas and stuff like that, right? It's definitely not a monetary standard, right? There's no one's like, oh, hey, I'd love to get how many Bitcoin is that pizza, right? No, we do the conversion back to a fiat monetary standard and then reconvert it back to crypto as much as the Bitcoin maximalists wish otherwise. So we have this long list, right? Cash, credit cards, gold, bank reserves, whatever, Fed stuff, right? But none of them are actually money, in my view. None of them. But it is clear, right? Like what they actually are, right? And that's what to me is like really cool, like about this, right? And what's really cool too is how this definition works with like that whole credit perspective of money, right? There's a whole theory that money is really credit based, right? It's not commodity based, it's credit based, right? Transactions are really based on credit between people. And it's really an anti-commodity kind of based view of the world. And it also is kind of consistent with the history of how money evolved throughout time, right? And that's at least my understanding of it, right? I could be wrong. Please feel free to correct me, right? So let's look at an example, right? Let's look at bread, right? Let's look at this as bread example, right? Let's say you're a baker and I buy your bread, right? Hey, give me some bread, right? I mean, I owe you money for that bread, right? I can't just take it, right? I'm indebted to you for the value of that bread, right? So how do we account for that, right? You don't say, Seth, you owe me bread, right? No, you say, Seth, that bread costs $5. You owe me $5, right? We account for that debt that I now owe you in money terms, right? In money. Now, how do we settle that debt? How do I settle my debt with you? Well, I deliver you some currency in exchange for the money that I owe you, right? I give you a $5 bill, I swipe my credit card, right? That is some kind of currency, a medium of exchange that extinguishes my obligation to you, right? So money is not really store value. It's not a medium of exchange. It's really just this common unit of account, right? We count for economic value in terms of money. Money is an economic unit of account. So it took me some work to get to this perspective, as money, just kind of this unit of account, kind of credit-based economics, really was pretty foreign to me starting off. I was kind of resistant to it. But over time, I can't shake it. I keep coming back to it as kind of how I see the world. And really, what really snapped it all into place for me was Henry Hazlitt, right? If you have not read Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson, you are missing out, my friends. You should definitely check it out. I love that book. Highly recommend it. 1946, probably can find it for free. So according to Hazlitt, right, credit is not some kind of arbitrary pen stroke of a banker, right? It's not something that the Fed creates, right? It's something, or rather, it's something that we all have, right? It represents either actual or potential productiveness, right? Actually, stuff that I've actually produced, or actually my productive potential to produce in the future, right? That is my credit, right? So when we think of it like that, then if we think of money in those terms, like the exchange of money is really just the exchange of credits, right? It's really just the exchange of productiveness in a society, right? And currency just kind of serves as that proof of credit. So at least for me, like really cool things started to happen when I started to employ this perspective, right? Since money is an accounting standard, right? Really, all production in an economy is monetary production, right? All production is monetary production. You produce something, you produce money, right? Think of it. Let's say I'm a farmer and I grow and harvest a bushel of corn, right? I now have a bushel of corn. How do I really account for that? I could say, I have a bushel of corn. More commonly, right? I'm going to say I have, I don't quote me on the exchange rates here, but I have $100 now of value, right? I have a bushel of corn. Let's say a bushel of corn is worth $100. Like I now have $100, right? I've produced $100, right? I'm in a sense crediting my sort of personal balance sheet for the value of that corn that I just produce. And now I could use that in exchange for other things, right? I would sell it, I would get currency, and then I would use that currency to buy the things that I really want out of society, right? Whatever they may be, right? So money is that accounting standard, right? And because money is that accounting standard, what I find is money cannot be created or destroyed apart from a productive process, right? They are one in the same, right? Money is production, right? Just think about that, right? Money is production, right? When we produce something, we produce money, right? When we consume something, we consume money. And because money is production, this is why only private banks can create money and not central banks, right? Because really the private banks are the productive banks in an economy, not so much the central banks. We can get to that a little bit later. So my definition of money really brings me clarity. And the way how I like to think of it is, I use this analogy, right? Money is to length as dollar is to inch, right? Money is to length as dollar is to inch, right? Money is that unit of account for economic value, just like length is sort of a unit of account for distance, and dollar is one of the units for it, just like inch is one of the units for it, right? Or pound can be one of the unit, British pound, not pound sterling, I should say, and not pound way, right? Like a pound sterling can be a way for measuring economic value as well. So this definition brings me clarity, right? Just like money makes a lot more sense to me now. Kind of brings order to like the conceptual chaos that is kind of money and economics. But there's just no question anymore, kind of what is and what isn't money, right? We can kind of go through, separate out all those different kind of money entities or traditional money entities, and we could call them other things, right? We could subclassify them. And then this just serves as really a much more durable base upon which to build other financial concepts, right? And inflation to me is a really big one. So that's why I think I'm on the right track here with kind of my money thinking. I know we're getting kind of a little abstract. We're getting kind of in the weeds here. I'm hoping it's starting to make sense for a lot of you people. You have any questions? If I seem like really off base, please use that chat function, use that comment section. To me, this is a really big hypothesis. I'm really interested in trying to work through it. I think I'm on the right track here, and hopefully, with your help, we can figure it all out. So the chat looks, so that's that for today. We will, I think, continue down this path next week. Maybe get, kind of continue, looking into money, although we're kind of getting to the end of money, but now we can start looking at the applications of how we could take this definition of money and kind of use it to understand the world and financial concepts maybe a little bit better. So with that, my ribs are not Man, it's at a little bit of a sketchy temperature there, so they need some tending to. Thank you everyone for joining this week. I hope you've enjoyed this kind of the exploration that we're on. Thanks for joining me again, and hopefully I'll see you all next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.